Coming from a family like many others that had to emigrate from Africa in search of a better life had an impact on several life-altering decisions that I made whilst in the process of becoming an adult. Welcome to my podcast, Growing Pains, where we talk about the ins and outs of life journeys experienced by people like you and me. Today's episode is going to be an introduction of myself to you, so we're not strangers as we embark on this beautiful journey together. I'm one of three girls. I'm the middle child, come from a beautiful home, beautiful parents, beautiful siblings, beautiful childhood. I grew up in a time when playing meant playing outside, playing house in the mud, making food made of mud, playing games. I was allowed to live my childhood. I was allowed to be a child, and I wouldn't change that for anything. I grew up with both parents in the house until I was about 11, 12, when mom had to move to the UK to study. So that left myself, my dad, my older sister, my younger sister, and the maid, whom we referred to as Gogo. My older sister was at boarding school, so it really left the four of us for the majority of the time. My dad was a journalist and traveled a lot. So whenever he'd leave, he'd make me responsible for any money that he'd leave behind for the upkeep of the house. I was quite good, to be fair. My parents did a good job on making sure I didn't feel the void of my mom not being physically there. So she'd make it a point to call every day, once or twice. She'd make sure she knew she was up to date with everything from school, my friends. So kudos to them on that part. When I really felt her absence physically was when I started my menstrual cycle. It started when I was at school. Unfortunately, my body didn't give me any warnings like what it does today. Or maybe because I didn't know what would happen before. But all I remember seeing was blood. There was a spot of blood on my uniform. Our uniform was a royal blue with white flowers. And when it's worn, it's very light, so it was very obvious. It wasn't too much blood, it was just a spot of blood. I panicked a little bit, but I made my way to the toilet, did what I had to do, and as soon as the bell rang, I went straight home. I didn't stop to talk to anyone. So when I got home, I told Ugogo about it, and then when mom called, Ugogo told her what had happened. So when I spoke to mom, she gave me the talk, I guess, of, oh, you're a big girl now, this is what you do, you need to make sure you have pads, you need to do this A, B, C, D, It was a very strange initial experience for me. I asked mom to make sure dad would give me money when I asked for it, without asking me any questions, because I didn't want to have that conversation with my dad. So my first trip to go and get some pads was hilarious. I took my backpack, made my way to the supermarket, made sure I knew no one in that shop. Made it straight to the aisle where they sell pads. I got what I needed and I went straight to the checkout. Now that I think of it, I laugh at myself. I'm like, why were you making it such a big deal? But I guess we all have different experiences. But I made it through. Fast forward to when I finished primary school. I decided to go to the same school as my sister for high school. I was there for about a year and a term because at the end of that year, my dad wasn't happy with my weight loss. So he decided to move me closer to home where I did the rest of my high school until O-levels. The second school I went to is where everything started, really. From someone who was quiet, enjoyed being me, not interested in boys, to having a boyfriend within a few months of joining the second school. I ended up being with the same guy for the next 10 years. Yeah. Believe it or not, I think a year into this relationship, I started making decisions that would impact me in my adult life. In this season of Growing Pains, we're going to be talking about the decisions I made, why I made the decisions I made, the subconscious, the conscious, the implications, the consequences, everything. I felt I had to do this podcast because I know of people today who are going through what I went through, but don't see it. I couldn't see it when I was in the situation, so I don't blame them for not seeing. With most people actually who are in situations that are not favorable for them, they don't really see it when they're in it until they come out. So I hope this podcast helps at least one person out there. I hope it helps you make the right decisions, make choices that you won't regret in the future, or even learn from my experiences. Everyone who listens to this podcast gains something from it. If it's not a lesson learned, it's introspection. If it's not that, maybe you know someone who's been through it, so you can share it with them and give them that outside perspective. Join me next week as I embark on this journey. Let's do it together. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Remember, we learn and grow from each other's experiences. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next week.